Hello there again. This is January 12th, 2025. Going back to the dorm. My breakfast. I had it a little quicker. I forgot that they don't actually have like the full breakfast stuff on Saturdays and Sundays. So it was just like, it was just like, oh wait, why do they mostly even just have like the sweet stuff? Because I was gonna be like, oh, I'll have some sausage or some egg, maybe some potato or greens or fruit or whatever. They didn't have any of that. I did end up having a banana, so that was good. But yeah, they didn't have like the normal like strawberries or pear slices or the like, but that's fine. Just wonder, what is your guys' favorite breakfast? Feel free to leave that down in the comment section below. And if you don't like, if you're not a breakfast person, that's perfectly fine too. My roommate and maybe a few of the friends I've had before weren't really breakfast people, and we still get along perfectly fine. So, yeah, we got that. Like I said before, I really wish you could flip the camera in these videos, because if I try to do that, it just stops recording, which is really annoying. But you can see that a lot of the snow has definitely not been walked through by a lot of people. So yeah, it's not quite the picture perfect clean white slate that you get when it's fresh snow. I do wonder if we'll get more snow here in the next couple of days. I don't know, but I reckon we'll see. There's not really necessarily something I'm trying to talk about. I'm just enjoying sort of a little longer walk. I hear the birds chirping, but I don't really hear that many birds. Although it does remind me a little bit of when I rewatched one of my much earlier on videos on this channel, and which one was it? I think it was the random jokes that I made. I think it was part 1, although it might have been part 2. I'm not too sure. Or whatever I called them. I don't remember. And quite different weather from this. It wasn't snowy, and plus it was also back at home for me instead of here at college. But and I think it was also during my senior year of high school. So I don't know. I will say I don't know. I haven't really thought about it in months now, but I remember during the summer when I was here for the summer program, popular bridge, or even the good first few weeks, you know, of being here during the actual school year. It felt like, you know, kind of crazy. I don't know, it still feels kind of crazy that I'm not living at home, you know, with my parents most of the time. And I don't know, I mean, I think I'm fine with that, but I'm not gonna lie, I do miss my family. You know, I really am used to being around them. And so it feels, I don't know, I guess I feel at least a little bit of the sense of, I forget, what's the word? It's actually getting a little hot for me, so I'm actually taking these gloves off. It's still a little chilly, but it doesn't feel freezing temperature. Well, whatever the word is, you know, kind of what I've kind of gone through, you know, some of that. But yeah, anyways, when I was mentioning the whole connection to the random jokes videos, I remember the part where I was like, something like, you know, you can hear the birds chirping, although they're more like, you know, or just making really rude, you know, very sharp sort of noises like that. Another thought I had that it's kind of popped into my mind sometimes over these last few months, a little bit. I was kind of thinking about like how, I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm like really, you know, that significantly different from, you know, most other YouTubers by any means, but I do think there is something that's a little, I don't know, a little unique, a little special. You know, not like, I don't know if I reckon there's probably got to be at least a few other people out there who I just haven't seen any of their videos yet where, you know, they do two different kind of things as their, you know, main attraction on their you know, on their channel. Like, what I mean here is, like, for myself, you know, I do Minecraft videos, but I also do these daily walking ones, and they have, I don't know if they'd say that they have like completely different vibes from one another, but you know, they are definitely pretty different. You know, I mean, one of them I'm playing a game, usually speed running it or something along that lines, and the other one, you know, I'm just walking around on the college campus and just talking about a bunch of different random stuff. But I don't know, I just haven't really seen anyone else do this sort of thing. I don't know, I mean, I don't want to be really careful with the snow here, but I don't want to be you know, over optimistic, or whatever the term is, but kind of just thinking that, like, oh, you know, the sort of thing I got going here is, like, you know, it's super unique to me, or it's just an interesting deal, you know, or that, like, I don't know what I'm saying, I got distracted. Man, this snow is making me a little nervous. I'm on these stairs. It's all like slanted downwards, so I have to be like pretty careful. Okay. Well, we're doing good so far. There's not really that many leaves up, but I can still hear, you know, some of the leaves, these trees rustling. I kind of hear just the background noise. I don't know, I like it. I don't know if I haven't seen anything, at least not that I remember, about Berea offering, you know, opportunity to go up to the, you know, to the mountain, you know, during this kind of weather. But I don't know, maybe. All you can see down there, and I realize I could, well, I can try, I guess. You can kind of look down on the tennis court here, and you see that, like, I don't think anyone's, I mean, even if there is, I can't see it. It's pretty much just like, you know, perfect, you know, clean snow. That looks really cool. You can see all the shadows of the trees on it, you know, under the sunlight. I don't know, just think it looks really nice. I was originally planning on going down this way, but I'm not sure if I still am or not. Because I don't want to mess. I know it doesn't even matter, but I don't want to mess that up. Mess the snow up because it looks really pretty. It's also super funny too because you can't even see, you know, any of the painted over parts on that, you know, on this court here. The other one, the other court there, it looks, there's barely any snow on that thing. It's mostly cleaned off, but, and see on this first one here, right, you can't, I guess we'll just try to show you. I don't know how good of a thing it is here, but you see it's the stark contrast. I don't know. Did they only need the other one and then they just completely, you know, forgot to do this other court, or are people going to come back to get that one, or is it, or is, you know, something else going on? I don't know, but it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I don't know, just, you know, hearing the birds here and seeing all these trees, hearing the background noise. It's really peaceful. You know, it's something that I can often appreciate when I'm just, you know, walking around in nature. And it's quite pretty, you know. There's a lot of there's a lot of the dead plants here, and you know, all the trees don't have any leaves or anything on them, but it's pretty in its own way, you know. Yeah. I don't know what bird that is I'm hearing. It's up there. I can't see where it's at exactly. I know it's pretty close. Huh. What's that pecking sound? Oh, yeah, it's really interesting because when you really listen closely, you can realize that there's a lot more. Maybe not here specifically, but you know, oftentimes there can be a lot more things going on in nature than we think. You know, their own some sort of, you know, vibrancy or life, what have you not. Just really trying to be slow with going down these stairs. I really don't want to slip. That would be really nasty. Oh, made it down. Two more. two more one or two more sets of stairs to go. I guess I can go this way. I don't have to trek through the field itself. I don't know. Maybe this is just me, but like when I was talking about the whole nature beauty and seeing all the things going around in the world around you, in that sense, you know, the natural world, it really just reminds me of when I've seen some documentaries before. And I don't know, I think that they're pretty cool. You know, not cool necessarily in the same way that I might think of, you know, other certain But there's a step there and I didn't see that. Woof. Good thing it wasn't too steep there. You know, I mean, I think of what I see in the documentaries as cool in the same way, you know, I think of like a really nice action sequence or, you know, certain story ideas or, you know, characters using their powers or whatever, you know, or using their intellect to defeat some enemy or whatever, you know, in a fiction piece. But you know, I think it's definitely really cool in its own right, especially to kind of just be like, you know, to see that these people, you know, going on these sort of journeys, you know, whether they are, you know, flying, you know, thousands of feet above the ground and in a helicopter, you know, or you know, that they're using drones to scour out the lands for them, or going on foot or boat, really whatever the matter, however, you know, they get about, it doesn't really matter. Kind of just see, like, you can kind of just see, you know, all the natural, you know, beauty around them, you know, whether that be, you know, like there, you know, certain rainforests or jungles or sometimes even the oceans, you know, or the desert, you know, or excuse me, you know, or some snowy tundras. I just think it's pretty cool. I mean, you really think about how much diversity of you know, weather and climate and you know, living conditions and environments that, you know, exist, you know, all around the world. So it's really quite a lot. You know, you have all sorts of different things, and even though I know I felt really, really mixed about, you know, living in the United States in this last, you know, 2 or 3 years, however long it's been. This is some deep snow over here. However mixed I felt, I can't deny that it is pretty cool that we have a lot of diversity, you know, in climate here in this country. You know, I do think that is definitely pretty cool. So you can kind of find, you know, you could kind of find, you know, where do I want to live? You know, do I want to live, you know, by, you know, some mountains? Do I want to, you know, be, you know, in a warmer state, you know, with a bunch of, you know, beaches and the sand, you know, or do I want to live somewhere that's, you know, perhaps a little colder and a little more up north, right? And you have plenty of options, you know, and I think that's pretty cool. Another is back to the thing with the documentaries, though, is I don't know. It actually helps me feel a little bit more, I don't know, a little bit more like, perhaps like more at peace or a little more grounded when I watch those. Because, right, you're not having to worry about, you know, you're not thinking about, you know, some kind of fictional plot or storyline. You're not thinking about, you know, or at least I don't know if anyone else does, but whenever I watch, TV, I watch something that's story based, or even in real life, whether people are telling me stories about stuff, or I'm watching something that's like, based on a real story, I feel like sometimes I can get a little worried, even though I don't really need to, because it's just the story. None of it's actually gonna jump out and hurt anyone or anything like that. But nonetheless, I still feel a little anxious about it. But with the natural stuff, it's like, I mean, yeah, I know there's no story, there's no plot, but I guess that's part of why I like it. It's just open-ended. There's no need to ascribe beginnings and endings and a whole complex array of human drama to something that is beautiful and complex and simultaneously simple and fucking right. I mean, and there's just a beauty with it. I don't know. I know I said this before in a previous video. I said like, if at nighttime you could see the twinkling in the ice crystals in the snow, but I can actually see them during day too, if the light's on it correctly, and it looks really cool. I mean, you can't see any that are really far away from you, but if they're within like just a few feet of yourself, you can notice. You can notice. Sure. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I will, honestly, I don't really know what major I'll decide on anymore. I know I initially thought I would do psychology, and then I thought, maybe media, because right after the YouTube channel here. But, and I don't know, I might very well change my mind. Alright, but as I've kind of gone through and did my own little looking at some of the stuff, whether for the courses that I might have to take, or things I'd have to learn, or or what sort of jobs or focuses these fields might have, and I kind of just find that, like, I don't really feel like that these are necessarily areas that I might actually want to do actual work for job in. I think the tricky thing for me is that it's not the problem of necessarily can I find something that's interesting to me, right? But do I actually want to do that as a job? I find that plenty of times in my life, and I think I don't really feel that upset at myself. I do feel a little bit, but I think it's completely understandable, fine, as is, has been, that I, right, like, for example, like, I've only really said that, I'd do a psychology major because, I like personality typology, that being pretty much the main reason why. That's what really got me into it. And I do find, plenty of other areas in the psychology field interesting, right? How the brain works, social psychology. How we even a little bit how we use our senses and stuff with, you know, memory and intelligence and creativity, and how we deal with emotions. I find all these things, you know, pretty interesting, but I don't really care for, like, I don't know, I kind of just dread, so to say, maybe that's a little too strong, but to say, but yeah, I don't dread the whole sort of thing of, oh, I have to actually, like, learn all these crazy techniques and study for all this shit, and you know, and figure out how to use all these complex technologies and fill out these, you know, really confusing reports and just all of these different things. And I'm like, I don't care for that. That's not what's interesting. That's not what I want to do. I don't know. I mean, maybe I should realize that, you know, really that I feel like that there's going to be probably a lot more to a potential field of interest as a job than I might, you know, want it to be, admittedly. But, you know, and I may just have to accept that. I don't know. I mean, I think the other thing for myself is that I want to just learn stuff for fun. I don't have to go through and just figure out what these crazy things have, you know, prescribed to me. I want to figure some stuff out, either for myself or just do my own, you know, you know, or just take the time to, you know, ask people questions, or watch documentaries, or, you know, read books, you know, stuff like that. I don't actually care for trying to figure out, oh, how do I do all this, you know, crazy shenanigans stuff. At least the way that I feel about it, you know. Right? I don't know. Maybe it's a sort of wimpy thing to say. I don't know. But that's kind of just how I feel, I guess. Right, and I want for my life is to feel that, you know, I have this sort of sense where I can explore and I can learn about, you know, interesting ideas and share those with other people, and kind of have this sort of freedom and peace to just, you know, go about as I please, and, you know, play games and make videos and read books and, you know, discuss ideas with other people. That's something that I feel like is really interesting to me, you know? And I think, honestly, perhaps I'm having a little closed-minded, perhaps, to kind of think, I think that, you know, that, like, I couldn't do that or get that or have even more satisfying or successful life or whatever, you know, if I go through all this, you know, academic and, you know, career rigor and tests, and, you know, learning all this stuff I don't really care for. I mean, maybe that would be, you know, and perhaps I just have to be willing to really just take the time and, you know, delve into it to then eventually get to that. I don't know. I mean, I don't really think it's necessarily too problematic, but it is an interesting sort of point nonetheless, I do feel like. So there's that. You know, I mean, I think I already said something really meant to, I guess. But hopefully that made plenty of sense. Enough sense, at least, to any people watching. And if you enjoy this video, if you're enjoying this, you know, or if you liked any sort of content that I've made before and you want to see more of it, then feel free to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. You know, I'm trying to reach 50 subscribers before Valentine's Day, and I'm really thankful to the people who've helped contribute to that goal so far. You know, old and new subscribers alike. So I thank you guys for that. Anyways, back to the talking stuff here. I don't know. I kind of feel like that. I kind of feel not everyone, but not everyone by any means, or that'd be kind of a long shot thing to say. I feel like, but a lot of people, I feel like, at least, I think, although I don't know, perhaps I'm wrong. You know, I kind of think that they often sort of, you know, care too much about the whole sort of, I don't know, what I'm trying to think what I'm trying to say here, how I want to say it, but who really care, I feel like, too much about stuff like, you know, status and getting a degree and going through all these other sort of, you know, really long and really annoying and bureaucratic measures of societal standards of what it means to be, you know, successful or happy, or, you know, or anything along these sort of lines, right? And I don't know if I will, but I feel like in my own ways I perhaps will come to do this. I kind of just want to be like, I just want to kind of live, I don't want to live by myself. That's not what I'm saying. I don't want to I do want to interact with other people. I do want to share ideas and learn things from them and experience the real world with some other people, right? I'm not antisocial, but I just want to live in my own sort of peace, and not necessarily, I don't care for doing everything like the traditional way that, you know, society has to care, you know, or ways, I guess. You know, there's a lot of them, I feel like. And I don't know. I mean, maybe I think this is, you know, somewhat due to the fact that, you know, hey, you know, perhaps it's just a little thing of like, oh, well, you know, oh, you're young, and, you know, and young people want to rebel and do things differently because they don't want to comply with the system and yada yada yada. And on some levels, yes, that is true for myself. You know, I am young. I may not like or agree with everything that is, you know, currently established, or what a lot of people in power say or do. Nonetheless, it's not just like that. I think it's really a rude way of putting it. Just, you know, every time a new generation is born, you just be like, oh, well, you know, they're being irresponsible. They don't understand how the world works and whatnot, you know. And I'm not here to talk, you know, generational human drama, because that's not what I care for. And honestly, I just get kind of pissed off at all that kind of stuff, because I just think it's a bunch of bull crap. It's just really stupid, and we should really consider people more as per, you know, who they actually are, their attitudes, their personality, their interests and values, and their culture, right? That's a lot more important, I would say, than, you know, generational stuff. But the reason I brought up the generational thing is not just because I was trying to bring up something that makes myself feel pissed off, although admittedly occasionally I do that. Sometimes I do that, so I'm sure others do sometimes as well. But really to kind of just talk about the whole sort of point of the whole sort of thing of as the establishment, and not the establishment as in the government or necessarily the way that I hear a lot of people using that term, but purely more in a sort of way of just referring to simply just what is established, not necessarily specific agency or or power body or whatever, and or even just even saying societal norms and expectations. And I think I know for myself that how do I say this? Okay. I think I'm definitely a person that will, the vast majority of the time, if not all of the time, follow laws. When I say going against societal norms, I don't mean also breaking rules and laws, because to me these are two different things. I care for I respect and care about admittedly I feel like there's probably some changes in rules and laws that need to be made, for sure, but a lot of the times I feel like they kind of help establish sort of physical order and safety in the real world, right? And just ensure that things are running smoothly or cleanly or clearly. And I appreciate that, a lot. And I also just really don't want to ever do anything to get myself in trouble with the law. I'm not interested in doing that. But in the sense of trying to think of what sort of examples. Right. Well, I think one of them, perhaps, might just be my whole sort of, maybe this isn't the best example, admittedly, but example nonetheless, of how, I know I'm here at college, right? And here I'm walking around and I'm questioning perhaps the importance of a major, right? Or rather, more specifically, what I was saying earlier was, more so what my major would be. Now, the way that I think about it is kind of like this. All right, so I think that I think it can be quite beneficial, and I think that that there is perhaps sort of evidence, studies that have been done to kind of show that oftentimes people who go through who go through post-secondary education and get themselves a major, a degree in something, and they go out and they get jobs, that they tend to be paid quite a noticeable amount more than those who only have a high school diploma or GED or whatever, at least here in the United States. I don't know what the situation like this is in other countries, but just saying it from my own cultural and current understanding. I'm gonna try to put these gloves back on, so my hands are getting cold again. Right. And I think that perhaps I will, maybe and it's kind of tricky to say because there's really a lot of different sort of things that go into this, factoring. But I kind of want to just, I'm not just the question of, what would my major be, or even what I would do with that, but sort of like, I kind of, while I understand that, okay, sure, maybe it might mean that I might get more money, right? I don't think that, it's tricky to say this because it's a multifaceted issue, and I don't want to be ignorant of different sort of realities that many people experience. But I don't think that money is necessarily the key to happiness. I think it is definitely helpful towards that, and I think having enough money is good, right? Because it means that you can get all the things that you need. It means that you can provide for yourself and your family if you have one. Whether you're trying to support older parents or have children of your own, or whatever the case may be, right? And that is important. And it also helps you to perhaps have the means to be able to get stuff or go to places or experience certain services that you may wish to, right? But that's more of a materialistic or sort of sort of focus, and perhaps, and I think that right, and I even at psychology shows, right, that like money is helpful and it contributes to happiness, but up to a point, right? And I also think that oftentimes, and even myself admittedly, sometimes I do this too, we focus a lot more on the stuff we get. Working our asses off to make all of the money to get that. At least that's the way I feel like it is in America. I don't know. Again, I don't know what it's like in other countries. I don't want to assert that it is a certain way or not, because never been outside the country yet. Although I'd like to be. I like to visit other places, see what they're like. And I've mentioned this before. Maybe not a ton in previous videos, but at least in real life anyway. Nonetheless, I think that it's like, I think really what is more important for success or happiness, at least the way that I feel and I think that it is, what those mean or would look like, at least for myself, is more about it's more about passion and interest and peace and thinking about how do I want to, what sort of mindset or behaviors, but what sort of mindset do I take, or what sort of hobbies or interests do I perhaps devote my time to. And I think, and I'm not saying that I think that's the only way. I think, there's a lot of different factors here, and, and you did realize, and I feel like so that you don't live necessarily just for yourself. I mean, you do live to, we are social beings, and I do think that on some level we perhaps are called to contribute or interact, at least, minimum, with other individuals, and try to do something to contribute to society, right? However, I do think that, right, as important as it is to, yes, do things to help other people, to be altruistic. And I absolutely agree. I think these are great things to do. I think that they definitely help a lot with happiness, right? You do have, I do think it is a great thing to sometimes be selfless and help other people out. You do have to also kind of think about yourself in the long term, right? What will make, you could ask yourself, what will make me feel better? Not just, oh, I get sleep. Oh, I get food. Although, yes, that is physical needs, but not part of the consideration. Absolutely. Not the entire image, though, on its own. But I did think about, how do I want to live? At the end of the day, regardless of what my socioeconomic status is, what my job title is, however many children I have, or what major I got in college, at the end of the day, what will make you feel like your life was well lived, or that it was satisfying, that it was interesting, that it felt engaging to you? And that looks like all kinds of different things. My image, or images, perhaps, are probably going to be completely different than what it looks like for some other people. And that is perfectly okay, You are allowed to experience, really, there shouldn't necessarily be too much alone on, but you should be able to experience joy and happiness and whatever, and the ways that work for you and align with yourself and your values, right? And for example, I know that there's a lot of friends I've had where they do find these abstract ideas and whatnot, they do find it interesting, sure, a little bit, but they really care about being active and engaging and really exploring the world and being really social and having lots of fun in that way, and playing all sorts of really big games and going on crazy adventures and whatnot. And even though admittedly I'd probably feel at least somewhat anxious or hell, even kind of distressed, because I have sensory issues, to do a lot of that, I support them in their endeavors, and I say, what, I think that's awesome. I think that's great, and I hope you get them. I hope that you're able to kind of aim for something for yourself. And so I don't think that having a major is necessary, a college degree is necessary for success or happiness. Although for many people it very well is a very important factor, and it would be wrong for me to say otherwise. It'd be wrong for me to not acknowledge, how it does noticeably enough contribute to how much income people make. But then again, it's just the thing of we equate income with happiness, and and while, like I said, while it does contribute, while having enough money, enough physical resources, however much that may be, having your physical needs met, whatever kinds of that might be as well, is important. It is not solely what having a good life is like. At least not the way I think about it. Although if you disagree, then feel free to say something in the comment section down below. I'd be curious of other people's perspectives on this stuff. But nonetheless, I don't mean, when I say this whole major thing, I don't mean it in a way that I discourage other people from seeking that out. because ultimately that is their choice, and I don't really care if other people get a major or not. I just care if I just care if they're doing well, if they're happy, and if that's what makes their day, makes their cup of tea, more full, then by all means. And if it's not, then that's perfectly fine too. I just mean these sort of things in the way that, just because society says, or some people say that you need to do this thing or have this thing or be this way or whatever in order to be successful or happy, does not ultimately mean that that's the truth, for everyone, right? Or that that's the only way of achieving. I think that there are multiple different possible ways that people can achieve what you want, right? You just have to be creative, and you have to be, persistent, and really think about what sort of life, what sort of image of that you want to create. And admittedly, you also have to recognize, okay, well, there are sometimes harsh realities that we deal with. There are, perhaps oftentimes other factors that we have to consider. Many people live in poverty. Many people are struggling to just support their families, and that's something that admittedly is kind of a little bit of a blind spot for me, because I don't really know what to say. I'm young. I came from, not like not a rich family by any measure. I'm not rich, that's for sure. But, well enough that I don't really know, I don't have really the life experience to really make kind of decisions or input on that. And I think it would be rude for me to do so. Because I don't understand all those factors that, but that doesn't mean that I don't understand, or at least try to empathize or be supportive. I think, honestly, regardless, that, whatever cards that life may deal us, that it is still possible, at least some way, to to be happy or to be successful. So yeah, this is really big, and this is another much longer video. 53 minutes or 54 minutes, something like that right now. But yeah, I don't know, I just like sharing thoughts like this, and I don't know if anyone really cares or would actually take the time to realistically watch this video. Besides myself at some later dates or times or whatever, I don't really know who else would watch this. But regardless, even if I'm the only person that watches this video, at least I'd say I succeeded so far and continue to succeed, and sharing interests and ideas that I have, and recording that, and who knows, maybe one day, maybe sometime down the road, metaphorically speaking, later on down in the future, who knows? Maybe I might be surprised, and I might have lots of subscribers. I may have hundreds or thousands, or Imagine millions of subscribers. I don't know. I mean, and even just saying that, I do wonder, perhaps will it be like, if I watch this again, if I watch this video later on in the future, will I just be like kind of chuckling or laughing and just kind of remembering what it was like to, not have, thousands or millions of subscribers, and think about like that doesn't really feel that feels sort of unreal to me, I mean, and again, I mean, maybe that won't ever happen. Maybe, I only have a really small channel base. But regardless of whatever happens, that's not, again, like I was saying earlier, with the whole major thing or money, right? I don't have to have, lots of, as much as I'd like to, I don't have to have, lots of people viewing and liking and subscribing to me, to my videos, in order for me to be happier and to enjoy this or appreciate this sort of process that I've created or enabled that YouTube has allowed me to pursue, and to be the creator, and and immerse myself in this. I don't know, what I'm saying, that feels a little a little over emphatic, a little overemphasized there, perhaps, but nonetheless. So let me get up again. But anyways, and I guess, I don't know. I guess, do I want to get going in? I might want to do that soon enough. I probably need to charge my phone. It does use a lot of battery when I make these videos, especially these much longer ones. But I don't know. But nice. It's nice been walking around and thinking and I say talking, but just monologuing. I'm not even talking with anyone else, really. I mean, I know we like to pretend, perhaps, that, myself included sometimes, that if you're watching a video where someone's, talking to the camera, and it feels much, or in a lot of ways, like a real-life connection. It's not, at least not quite the same thing. Anyhow, I forget what I was exactly trying to say there, but nonetheless. But yeah, it has been nice going on this walk, and being in the sun and monologuing, by myself to to share more thoughts here. I know I can be, perhaps quite repetitive sometimes with what I'm saying, and I'm sorry about that. I don't mean to be. But yeah. Anyways, I guess I'll go going in. But yeah. I hope you enjoyed this. Hope you'd like this, found this interesting. I hope that at least one or two people like this and found this interesting, and I hope that whatever time of day or night, whatever it is for you when you're watching this video, whoever you, the viewer or viewers, is or are, you have a good day or night, whatever it is. So I will see you again in the next video, whatever that is. I don't know.